Michael G3 ranked these head coach openings by attractiveness: Raiders, Jets, Jaguars, Bears, Saints, Patriots. I will hold my nose and say that the Patriots are the top one, not because of Robert Kraft, because of their cap space and because of Drake May. And that's really it. It's just kind of that cut and dry. You walk in there.
Worst roster in the NFL.
Yeah. Terrible roster, but you got a lot of money. You got a quarterback you ostensibly feel good about, even though they only won games with Brissett and Joe Milton this year. But I get it. May's going to be good. I hate to say that as well. So I'll say that's probably number one. I look at the rest. People are going to say I'm biased, but I think you could make a fair case the Jets are second. When I look at their offensive line, when I look at the market, when I look at the appeal that comes if you win here and starting the same time as a general manager, that is why I like it better than the Bears job. I know you're getting Caleb, but are we 100% sure Caleb is like that good?
Yeah, and the infrastructure of Chicago is pretty ugly.
Yes, not the smoothest situation you're walking into there. Saints, I don't even think it's a debate. I think it's a worse situation than the Jets. Jaguars, you're dealing again with a holdover general manager, maybe some questionable ownership. Like it's Jacksonville. You can make a very fair case, whatever. They have Trevor Lawrence. The right offensive coach is going to go there and be excited about it. I'm not going to fight you or get mad about that. The Raiders, very chaotic the way they've handled the process. You have to go with Telesco and work with a GM who's there. Nothing on the roster at all. Starting completely over at quarterback. It's not like you're picking one or two. You're picking six, one spot in front of the Jets. So I don't know. I think you can make a credible argument that if you're the Jets, and you're not Woody Johnson saying this, you're Tannenbaum or Spielman saying this, that, hey, look, we got our offensive line in place. We got our left tackle. We got 3 good running backs. We got Garrett Wilson. We got Sauce Gardner. We got Quinnen Williams. We're going to get Quincy Williams back. We have a top 7 pick. We have all of our draft picks throughout the rounds. It's up to you what you want to do at quarterback, but once we make some moves, we'll have some flexibility to spend a little bit. And you're starting day one with a new general manager. You guys are going to be lockstep. And we've given our last general manager 6 years. We gave our last head coach almost 4 years. Prior to that, we gave the other general manager almost 5 years. And prior to that, we gave the other head coach 4 years. So you're going to get at least 4 years here, roughly, to do something. And if you win here, and by win, I mean you go 9-8 and make the playoffs, Jet fans, led by us, will build a statue for you for ending this godforsaken playoff drought. So that would be my pitch. Where do the Jets rank here?
This is a really good question because there's what we think, there's what the general public thinks, and there's what the general NFL perception is or thinks. Like if you just asked any random NFL, say that you asked the Cardinals director of player personnel to do this, right? Like that's what I'm saying. So let's do our version. You did yours quite well. Jets at 2, right? Jets landed at 2. I don't agree with you about the Patriots, but I wonder if there's a bias in me on that. I love Drake May. I loved him as a prospect. I thought he was much closer to Caleb as a prospect than a lot of people wanted to admit. That's kind of where it ends. I think cap space has become severely... It's not that cap space is overrated because the Saints, who might be the worst job on this list, when you're so deep in the red, that's a nightmare because that affects your internal operations. But an abundance of cap space, I think, has become overrated because the free agency market sucks. Good players don't get to free agency, and when they do, they get paid 3 times what they should. So it's nice. Can you go get T. Higgins? Because no one else has wanted your Brandon Ayuk wanted nothing to do with that place. Like they offered him, apparently, rumored over like $30 million. So Drake May is a big one. There's no denying that. There's a lot of rumors out there like Kraft has not been great throwing money around for operations. Mm-hmm. Elliott Wolf is still there. I don't know why. Why is Elliott Wolf still there? So I would call them middle of the pack because that's how much a young franchise quarterback matters. I'm a believer in Drake May. So at the end of the day, I think I wouldn't have them 1. And the roster is horrible. Christian Gonzalez is one of the better corners in football. Keon White's a good player up front, but the roster is like when you need 5 or 4 offensive linemen, there's not enough money in the world to do that. So I think 1, it's so funny. The easiest number 1 in the world was Jacksonville until they kept Trent Baalke. So now you're stuck with a bottom 5 GM in the league. But ownership there is very highly regarded to work with. You have Trevor Lawrence, who I still think is going to be a good player. The roster is not as bad as people think it is. It's not. The ownership will grant you free agency money anytime you need it. The media down there is not like it is in these major markets. I think if you think as a head coach you will outlast Balky and have bigger say in the draft room, Jacksonville's one. It's a lot of ifs, but I want to be fair. Then it is a little bit wide open. I think 2 is still the Bears, as much as I hate the infrastructure of that place. Caleb Williams, you got weapons. You got to build the offensive line, but that's cleared out. The secondary's got talent. Chicago is a vibrant place. Like, I think there's good things about being in Chicago. I would put the Bears at 2, but I think the pool is really wide open from 2 and on, where the Jets, the nice thing is the slate's clean, right? I mean, really, if you want it to be, it's a GM and head coach coming in together. The roster is better than most of these teams. I think I'd put the Jets and Patriots tied at 3 because it's what you want. Do I want a better roster and working hand in hand with the GM where I'm part of this process coming in together? And all I really have to do is if I can get quarterback right, like everything else is kind of lined up there. With the Patriots, there is still the feeling of you're still life after Belichick. Gerard Mayo didn't clear that in 1 year. So, like, we saw how that went for Mayo at the end. Drake May is a huge attraction. That's really it. That is really it. So that's why I think they're so different, and they end up as a tie, as a 3A and 3B. I don't know why people think the Raiders is an attractive job. Like, you can't just say Tom Brady. Tom Brady's a broadcaster who dabbles in
in the building every day.
Yeah. This is not the roster's, once again, I think this roster is better than people think, but it has nothing at quarterback. The defense needs a lot of help on the back end. You're going to owe some money to some of the key players on the roster soon. Ownership does not get the best remarks there about throwing around cash. And then I would say that would put the Saints last because they are in legitimate cap hell. Like, it's no longer like they'll kick it down the road again. No, like the Bills do this year. It's awful. Derek Carr's money's on the books. He won't take a pay cut. The roster's thinned out. There's a lot to clean up there, and it's going to take, I think, 2 years just to clean it up and then get right.
Don't even think about it, Aaron Klein. You don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Last question from JP Waxer. Guys, ignorant question, but losing assets without any return, Rodgers and Adams, really sucks. Is there any cap benefit if he retires? Is there a chance in hell he can be traded, even if just for cap purposes? Ditto for Adams. Another spoiler, one of our 6 episodes for Streets of Fire is going to be with Jason, who's been a regular guest in the show. But we really want to have a standalone just to do all of this because there's a lot of nuance and complication around it. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that they're still going to be paying some type of meaningful cap penalty if he retires, right? There's still dead money that's going to hit next year. In terms of like trading him, you're not going to find a team who's going to trade for his pre-existing money. You're going to have to foot some of the bill. I have a hard time seeing a trade happen now. It would be more of like, I'm retiring, and then all of a sudden in like May, like I'm feeling pretty good, and like I talk with the Jets, I'm on the plane, and like they're going to trade me to Tennessee or they're going to trade me to Pittsburgh. What does that mean at that point? Like maybe you're footing some of the bill and you're getting like a late round pick back or something. It does seem like, and this, I don't know, to me this is silly because he's so damn good. Like Adams and Rodgers seem like a full package deal. Yeah. Like if Rodgers isn't here, Adams isn't going to be here. Adams is going to go wherever Rodgers goes. I don't know if that means he retires if Rodgers retires, which again would be silly because Adams is like really still at the peak of his powers from most of what I've seen. It's hard to predict because who are the characters in this drama? Woody Johnson, the ownership group around him at the Jets, and Aaron Rodgers. Like there's a lot of unpredictable, mercurial personalities in the mix here. So I'm not, the Jets are going to have to deal with the dead money. They're going to have to deal with the cap situation in either way. I think the sooner you could get that money off the books, the better. I would love to find a way to restructure and keep Adams. I just don't think it feels like more like fan fiction to me. I'd like it to happen. I'd like to be like, all right, Rodgers going to retire. We eat the money as quick as we can. we restructure Adams so he has another year to go have a big productive season and maybe get paid again. It just kind of feels what's most likely is that both of those guys are going to quote unquote walk off into the sunset, and maybe they'll change their mind in 4 months, and the Jets will operate assuming they're going to have to eat that dead money. And look, with other stuff that will happen likely with Mosley, with Reed leaving in free agency, the Jets aren't like totally capped out. Like they'll have some money and flexibility to spend and go get a couple starters in free agency. And where a good GM does work is that you could find a couple mid-level starters in free agency. Like the Jets had enough money last year, but they spent it on Javon Kinlaw. They overpaid him and he was terrible as a
Unreal
starter.
contract.
Just an unreal, ridiculous contract. They paid Leaky Fotu to be a rotational player. Any money to him